Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
The detective said missing kids usually come home. What happens when they don't?
Based on a true story.
Police looking for John Gacy.
We discovered bodies. By the looks of it, they're younger men.
The things he did to those kids. He's sick.
The system failed these families.
Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
Do you know how many there are?
Up to you to find out.
Welcome to Why We Roll, a tabletop role-playing game design podcast by the Stillfleet Studio. We're your hosts, Chris Pickett, creator of the historical fantasy game Dance Macabre, and Wythe Marshall, creator of the political sci-fi game Stillfleet. Through the show, we hope to amplify new creative voices. We chat with different indie TTRPG designers, talking through a range of questions that are pertinent to many designers, players, and GMs. We hope to showcase fresh and even challenging ideas about what makes imagination-based games so powerful. Before we introduce today's guest, a reminder. If you enjoy this episode, please consider supporting the show and all of our games over at patreon.com/Stillfleet. Okay, let's find out why we roll. Hey, welcome back to Why We Roll, the tabletop game design podcast from the Stillfleet Studio. I'm Wythe Marshall.
Hey, I'm Chris Pickett.
That's right, Chris. You are Chris Pickett.
I always will be.
Well, we are very excited. We have not one, not two, but three guests today representing the Under the BQE press. They are friends, they are writers and a musician and a technologist, and we're all humans, you know? That's the main thing, right? So we're going to talk about indie publishing. So this is a little bit of a different episode in that we're not as focused on game design, but really more books. So book design, selling books, and I think the most fun for me, I'm going to just go ahead and guess for y'all, writing books. Or maybe reading books? I don't know. Maybe that's a question. I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. I mean, I think for me it's reading, but
okay.
We'll find out, yeah.
I like writing. I think I'm in a phase where I would rather just make up something and just assume that, like, I don't know. This is let's all have a knife fight about this. So before we get any further, let's introduce the Under the BQE press squad here today. And I know these folks from basically my grad school experience and the privilege of hanging out in Brooklyn with them. And also, we are in their house.
Yeah, on location.
Not in like a creepy, we broke in, we're like, you have to tape a podcast with us way, but kind of like a we broke in, we're like, you have to tape a podcast with us. So Lauren, do you want to sort of kick it off? I mean, let's just do a round of intros and say, what the Under the BQE press is.
Okay, hi, my name's Lauren Belski. I am, I guess, the conceptual founder of Under the BQE. I'm also a writer, and one of the first novels that came out under the press is Dark Enough, which you can see right there. And it's my second book. My first book was a collection of short stories called Whatever Used to Grow Around Here.
Nice. And yeah, I've read the book. It's good. It's dark enough. We'll be talking about it, but just going to say the names of the books like a bunch of times, because why not? That's a show about books. David, you want to...
Yes, I'm David Greenwood, author of The Cloud Intern, the first book from Under the BQE, which Lauren maybe started the press in order to publish, and which I was delighted to contribute. And now I'm a personage of Under the BQE itself, and we'll talk about the model and how the writers are involved, I guess, later, but for the moment, I'm just a person also involved in Under the BQE.
Yes, an excellent book, The Cloud Intern. I read it before it was published, which was very fun, and it's fun to see a book go from a good draft to a good book. And so that's another maybe question for y'all we can get to is,
Man, drafting novels seems like it takes longer than game books. I don't really know.
No idea.
It seems like it's just more words. Brian.
Yeah, hey, I'm Brian Russ. I am Lauren's husband. And yes, you're in the home of Under the BQE, but also the home of us and our two children who are upstairs right now. I'm coming to this from a couple different perspectives that I bring to the Under the BQE kind of like indie DIY sense, because I played in a bunch of Brooklyn bands. I kind of ran some bands for some years, and then I decided to start my own indie record label, which is like kind of a labor of love that's just kind of like me putting out small bands on cassette tapes and occasionally vinyl, and kind of running it all on my own. So I have that experience of launching a small like media company in a way, I guess, putting things on streaming, putting things in physical formats, and I kind of bring that experience to the table. I'm also a writer too. I've been working on a book called The $100,000 President for, I want to say, close to 10 years now. And I'm on, my final draft of it, which I think is going to take at least a year or two to complete, because the book is it's rambling and it's just so long. But I'm at the phase where I'm trying to condense it from like 900 pages down to 500 pages. But so, yeah, I enjoy writing too.
And I read it. I read $100,000 President, and it's amazing. Once it gets to its final form, is going to blow everyone's mind. It's just like title. The Cloud Intern, and hopefully Dark Enough as well. Under the BQE is certainly dedicated to putting out manuscripts that are really thought-provoking and have a ton of personality in them. More personality than maybe a big publisher would even want to go with. We're voice-driven, we're authentic, and we are the founding seed of the plant. Like all of us, like if we talk a little bit about the model of the press itself, is basically it's writer-acquired literature. So David and I went to grad school together as well as wife, and we're all writers, and we have seen our work in many different forms. I read another novel that David wrote years ago, and I also read The Cloud Intern when it was in draft. And when it got to like the final stage, like David and I both kind of made it to that last rung. We got literary agents, it was out on submission, all of these things. And it's just disheartening to just like, an agent will work so hard for something, but they're not going to keep going. I mean, what's in it for them, really? After a certain stage, they're just kind of like, okay, well, we'll try again later, even though they really love the work. But I loved David's book, and I thought it was really, like, just of the time period and needed to be read, and so I was kind of like, what if there was a press where writers chose a book that they loved, and just they were the champions of it. And then, so it's kind of like a tag your it model in some ways, but my idea of it is kind of like, if you look at the logo of Under the BQE, you'll see that it's like the elevated platform, the elevated road of the BQE, and then there's roots that are growing out of it. And when I conceptualized it, I was thinking a lot about, Virginia Woolf's press, and how it's the tree. Yeah. And the way that it grows up. And I was just thinking about how these days, the way that the real messages travel is kind of through the roots. So I was just kind of thinking about how we could build something like that. So I like to think of it
inverting the arboreal into the rhizomatic.
I was going to say it's very, very Deleuzian and very, very Guattari. It's
very Deleuzian.
Rhizomic.
I will also say, so for people who aren't in New York, the BQE is the Brooklyn Queens Expressway, which is, so you're also inverting a symbol that in New York City is like a bad thing and turning it into a good generative thing, sort of a seed of novelty and invention and artist-run indie work. The BQE was created as like a monstrous, like destroying communities of color, like highway for cars for rich people to drive around to kind of connect up the boroughs. And it was seen as like very modern by the sort of largely like white middle classes who were sort of for that mid-century big aesthetic. But now it is this weird sort of shadow. It's like a place that sort of blocks out the sky throughout a lot of Brooklyn and Queens. So it's interesting to think about what grows in the interstices, however you say that word. Yeah. What grows beneath. Yeah. So I love that idea of kind of the tree is almost like a mushroom in this sense. It's blooming in the darkness, and it's reflective of kind of local communities. Many people came here from other places, obviously to New York, but a lot of us have been here now 20, 30 years. And at that point, it's like, whatever, dog, like, I live here. Yeah. So it's interesting to sort of hear some of the works and how you guys have evolved, being your friends, lucky enough for a long time to sort of see some of these works go from early conversations to, like, you wrote a draft, like you said, got it out there, and then at some point, just nothing, right? The big presses, whatever that means nowadays. I actually don't really know what that means also in the era of, the internet.
Yeah. But self-publishing.
Yeah. It's like, much. It doesn't get out there. And so you're just left wondering, okay, then what? And I love the model. So Brian, I definitely want to hear more. And we should just shout out the name of your press, because I also, we actually have been talking to a lot of people who make dungeon synth, specifically genre music, and do cassettes.
Very cassette-heavy medium.
Very big Venn diagram crossover with games, like nerdy tabletop games. Is like people doing cassette music. So it's a thing that seems very lively, and I don't even own a cassette player, and I was amazed at the dedication. These guys are like, yeah, but could we put it out on cassette? And we're like, yeah, okay, well, if that's important to you, we're going to do that. So Brian, what is your label? And just so we get the name out there.
Oh yeah, so it's called Campers Rule Records. And people always ask me, what does that mean? So I'll quickly explain that. When I first was in a kind of touring in a minivan indie rock band here in Brooklyn called Backwards, we kind of just like, we're going out on the road, we're quitting our day jobs, we're going to book shows across America and live in a minivan and camp because we can't afford anything else. We'll either sleep in the van or we're going to camp places.
And we'll never hate each other. We'll never get into fights over petty shit because we live in a minivan together.
And it was like the world's crappiest. Remember the minivans with the wood side paneling?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a minivan. It was like it was a Dodge Ram, right?
The very first one was a minivan. Okay. Remember, I bought it in Long Island for $500. Oh my God. I like a junkyard. Yeah. Then there was the Dodge Ram vans, and then there was, Yeah.
That was living the highlight.
Yeah, that's solid.
This is when your brother was still in the band. So, So we were camping, and one night at this crazy town in Maryland, I can't even remember the name of it, but it had one of those at the bottom of the campsite. The campsite was like up on a hill. It was like one of those railroad turn style things where the train cars can actually completely turn around. So like every hour a train would come and this like thing would turn the actual train engine around so it could face the other direction. And that was part of the campsite. And then, so that kept us up all night. So we're finally going to sleep. We're like, remember, someone said, I think it might have actually been your brother.
It was definitely, the story I think is my brother.
Remember the camper's rule, before the camper's rule. Like, what is that, dude? He's like, you can't pee within 5 feet of the tent. If you gotta wake up in the middle of the night and you gotta go to the bathroom, because that means like someone's gonna walk out of the tent and step in your pee. So the camper's rule, you gotta pee 5 feet away from the tent. So that was like in the year 2007, right? And then I went through many iterations of that band, and I played in other bands, and then somehow we were always joked around like, one day we're going to start a record label called Campers Rule Records. And then just yesterday, Gemini, or I think we're going to talk about tech and AI soon, I put in, for some reason, I just thought, so Campers Rule has been like a little pet project of mine. We're about to do our 26th release. And in over like 10 years or something. But I just randomly put into Google AI, like, Campers Rule. Like, did your brother make that up? Or was that some sort of larger understood rule, about is that really the Campers Rule? And when I looked it up, it said Campers Rule is the 3-3-3 rule. You should drive for no more than 3 hours a day. Set up your RV and stay at the campsite for at least 3 days. And now I can't remember the third one, but it was a totally different Campers Rule.
That seems very RV-centric kind of.
It was an RV Campers Rule.
I can feel that like stitched on, like cross-stitched and hanging.
I was like, this is not the camp. AI game. Is there a way to influence the AI to change the campus?
I think over time it'll become more piss-centric. I think just in general, youth culture will drive everything toward piss. That's a law of culture.
You're just
I just have to wait for the singularity to.
I think you gotta populate
about it.
Yeah, like the Reddit threads based on my reading of Empire of AI.
Yeah, definitely. Just go into every camping Reddit thread, every R camping that's out there, or every sub thread, whatever. I'm never on Reddit. I have no idea how it works really, and just several post after post after post. This is the campers rule. Yeah,
good idea.
Well, you have to do it organically. So this is all we're working on now. How do you write comments for search engine optimization 2025? Like what gets picked up by robots or humans? But you have to be like, I was talking to my friend who told me about this thing.
Yeah, there you go.
So it doesn't sound artificial. So this is, we promise this is all relevant. We're talking about indie media organizations. How do you get attention? But before we do that, I also I want to go back to Under the BQE and hear a little more about the process and the coming about of your books. Just kind of two questions. First of all, each of you have great books, so we should give some attention to those. But also, you mentioned the kind of artist-run idea that there's artists who select the next artist's work, right? That's sort of the summary.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want to say a little more about the process so far? And I know you've only published a couple, but maybe you can say sort of how it's working and just generally how that model has come about.
Yeah, kind of going from those early conversations and reading the manuscript into like actually putting out books.
Mm-hmm. Can I answer this? You haven't said much yet. Do you care if I talk? I don't want to.
I would be delighted for you to talk.
Okay. I don't want to hug the mic.
We're leaving that in.
So I just want to say, so I think I've worked for a lot of small businesses in Brooklyn. Okay, I worked for the Brooklyn Flea. I was like part of their like social media, and I was like helped be their like internet voice. And through that the Brooklyn Flea and Smorgasburg are like basically small business incubators. And so through helping them like get their Insta platform and like regramming or whatever these words are, which I never really feel comfortable with. I really learned a lot about like business just accidentally, like the narrative of things, how like everything needs a narrative. And I was looking at David and I and what we were doing, and I kind of was like, well, we already have a baked-in narrative. We're promoting each other's books. It just kind of all clicked in. The same way when you're trying to think about like a story, like or a poem that you're writing, like it kind of comes to you, and you like because you had an experience, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to write about this, and like you start writing about it, and you see the end, so you're like, I know where I'm going, just to fill it all in. It just kind of appeared to me that like that would be the narrative. So that's where it came from, because I already was like, well, the reason why I want to do this is because I can't believe that everyone passed on this book. This book is so fun and also so like so prescient, and also so like it's just like so sensitive. And there were so many things I liked about it, and I was like, I know good books. Like I love to read. Why can't I say that something's good? And so like I just think like the same thing. Like David has really interesting, cool taste, like and likes voice-driven things as well. And like just both of us kind of starting that way and just seeing where it goes. Like all things to me are like an experiment. Like I'm not in it to make like $1 million. I'm just in it to keep art alive, because I just feel like we're all scrapping by. We're doing a podcast in the kitchen. Like we're just having fun. Like, and so let's figure out ways to have fun. Let's figure out ways to like get people's work out there. And so far, both of the things, like, so David was my first selection. David's going to pick another one. We're both kind of picking two titles to start. So the second title that I chose, which will come out next summer, is by another person we went to grad school with, actually, though I was never in a class with him, Judson Merrill. His novel is called Paranoid Storytelling, and it's such a weird book, and it's like all about like just truth, like what is truth and how can you discern truth through like modern media. And it's written as like nonfiction, even though it's fiction. So it's like a real like distortion. And it kind of broke the publishing system in a way too. Like he got to that final round too, and like kind of people didn't know where to put it. And I think that's another thing for this. It's like it's a place for things that don't fit in like a please pick your three categories.
We're
right.
Way less constrained by marketability and by like people who have to make money selling books have to take into account like the and emphasize cultural elements that are involved in marketing and making money. And it could be the moment, like with me, it was like people aren't interested in this satires by like a white dude about tech lords in the clouds. And maybe now people would be like, oh my god, there's a novel about tech lords in the clouds, like an AI emulations of people, and it would have sold in 2 seconds. Who knows? And with yours, like I think also in general, to promote weirdness in the world is very important, and it's not like obviously a priority if you're trying to make money to fill the world with like sublime weird shit. And like, I'm not saying like Lauren's book, Dark Enough, you wouldn't read it and think, this is like some avant-garde strange thing that I can't access. It's like extremely accessible, but to me, it's written like sort of like Jane Bowles or something, where it's just like this is like a just completely different human being writing this. That's not like I can't like it's most of what I read. I feel like I know what you're doing there. Like I can just see you reaching into the cabinet and like pulling out the thing that's sitting there, and like this is just like I don't know how you're doing this. Like you're just a totally alien being for me, and I love that feeling, and that's like what I want for the book. The next book, and apologies for those who submitted me ages ago and I haven't gotten back to. And that's what I want in general. Like, I don't think any of the writers that I really like would get published at all right now, for sure. Like, who would publish Robert Balzer or even Donald Barthelme probably wouldn't be published now.
Yeah, I mean, some good weird stuff gets published, but it seems completely obscure. It feels like a Kafka. Yeah, standing before the law kind of situation to know how do you get a Marlon James or Cesar Ira or, maybe outside of Japan where I think there's still like really weird, innovative literary stuff happening. I feel like generally it is marketability. And maybe it's a crapshoot. So there are two different crapshoots here. One is about marketability, and as you're saying, you have an extremely timely book, but it happened to be pitched in a cycle when they're looking for certain kinds of authors, at the highest level of like new voices. And then Lauren, your book's extremely marketable. And very, very good and very emotionally, from D.H. Lawrence to it's very like true to lived experience of teenagers, period, which is a genre that will never, ever go away until we can finally start our lives and then immediately skip forward to being curmudgeonly old men, which is something I've proposed many times to scientists around the world. They've always shot me down. But I wonder...
Then they have nothing to regret.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be a horrible person if that was true. But I wonder if that's just too much competition and it's very hard to see the shining... it's hard for the better prose to kind of win out. And it's just there's so many entrants. So it's almost the opposite problems of like, more niche or like something topical versus something evergreen, but where you're competing with everyone who thinks, oh, I can write a novel about my childhood.
Well, I wonder about that. And I've thought about like a lot. I've read, my agent very kindly, like maybe I like to torture myself, but she put together basically a list of the rejections that she got so I could read them because I was like, I just want to know what they're saying.
I mean, that's fair.
That's fascinating. No, I've never gotten to this level.
Yeah, so I got to read them, and everybody was basically saying positive things, and there was like this undercurrent of I don't know how to break this book out, which I don't really actually, I'm a novice when it comes to being a publisher. So I don't know what that code means. Like I don't know exactly what that means. There's two phrases that publishers say a lot when they reject things, and I don't know what they mean. One is, I don't know how to break this out, and the other is, I'll be cheering for this on the sideline.
Right.
Yeah. These two, but it's just such a weird, like, just say no. Like, why, like, cheering for it on the sideline, like, are you cheering? Like, are you happy now? Like, or are you not happy now? Like, what does that mean?
I think it implies there's a specific hook, and they think someone else could find that hook and make money on it, but that's not their thing that they can do. But I do think, it can be a platitude. It could be genuine, who knows? But.
Yeah, but it's definitely, it's like it's a recycled, it's so recycled that it's like almost like it feels so strange. It's like it's walking into like a weird bizarro land where like everyone's talking and I'm like, I don't know what you mean.
Well, that's the first thing they teach you when you get a job as a publisher, right? It's like here are the two phrases that you're going to use for every rejection.
Well, it's MBA speak. It's just business in general, and people make fun of circling back and touch bases. But it's that third policeman kind of jargon. The jargon of we're all friends, and it's not an insane social Darwinian sort of case-based system we live in. It's not a completely unequal, insane, plutocracy. Instead, it's some sort of meritocracy where we all try hard and we support each other. And because there's such strong cognitive dissonance, I think, between how business talks about itself, being someone who works a day job still in advertising has kind of forever, and how it actually functions, I think you get old enough where it's like a horrible piercing tinnitus in your ear all the time when people say that, right? Because you know on the one hand, like maybe this individual means it, but as a class, this person does not mean it. They're being very like gatekeepy.
It's like weird interpersonal soft power. In a way.
And it's just so dissonant. You know what I mean? It's so dissonant with.
And also, this person was talking to my agent.
Right.
They didn't even know that I would see it.
Yeah. Well, your agent's fluent in business.
Yeah, exactly. So, So anyway, I was like looking and thinking about this, and a lot of people had like little tweaks, and one of the things that I was thinking, but none of them were the same. So I just started thinking about the way that teenage life is universally marketable, so to speak. But we live in a world right now where like things really have to go in boxes, and we can get into talking about the internet in this regard for real, because like. Not everything just gets filtered through these like channels, and there's like straight lines between them. Like for instance, if you're dating online, right? If you choose that you want to date somebody 35 or younger, and your soulmate had a birthday yesterday, and they're 36 now, you are not seeing them on the internet. All right, that's happening
because they're getting dialysis. Because they're old.
They're too old. You do not want to meet them anymore.
This is true. So we should 40. I almost feel like this is like a panel question for each of you. How you've thought about this as you're independent artists trying to make money. How do you figure out the box, and do you want to fit in the box? Like, what are the box you try to fit in? Because I hear you. I feel like it's becoming stricter and stricter because of the algorithm, right? Mm-hmm. I mean. You know way more about algorithms, I think, than the rest of us. David, do you have thoughts on, I don't know, kind of how marketing is driven by, like, tech companies saying it has to be in one box only out of a list of 10 boxes or whatever?
Yeah, I bet, the way algorithms are evolving, it seems like that's going to be less the case because, they're just turning into, like, goo instead of, like pre-programmed things. The machines are learning from the world to a degree. So there's probably, I think, going to decline in terms of just like the strict definitions and boundaries of things that computers anyway are interacting with. I don't want to be positive about technology in the world, but I think in that area probably like LLM stuff and just machine learning algorithms are going to be favorable to people not being as delimited by other people anyway. Just like you're not going to write a program where it's like class, person, attributes, like, role-playing games are like this, it's going to be fuzzier.
That's interesting. Role-playing games are like that.
They can be like that.
They can be.
But the game itself is like creates the blur between them, right? You have these. It's almost like I don't play many role playing games. I know like Oregon Trails, like probably like by Oregon. But like with that, even like you have your things that you start with, and then like the story is like what happens to you.
Yeah. Right.
But you have stuff to say about this too. I feel like because you're a teacher of technology.
Well, yeah, I think I'm thinking in 2008, MySpace, I think, came out, right? And being somebody in maybe 2006 through 2008, somewhere around that, maybe a little later. And then you're in a band, and it's like, this is the way you promote your band. You've got to have a MySpace page. And it's like, this is a whole new thing. And everyone's like, what is that going to do? Well, it's a way to like spread the word. You can put your songs on there. You can put pictures of your band on there. You can announce your shows on there. And random people will find you and you'll spread the word about your music that way. And we were like, okay, we'll play that game. If this is like a free way to gain publicity or marketing or whatever, let's play that game. And then they came up with these algorithms for MySpace where you could hack the system and be like, spam people, like, I want to invite 40,000 people to follow my band. And I forget how this worked, but we used to do it. We used to be like, all right, let's install this app that will scan through all of MySpace and invite people to follow you or go to, like, I don't remember how this worked, but we would be like, whoa, look how many more followers we have, or look how much it's growing. And back in those days, I mean, this I think was even before Facebook was as big. I think MySpace was a little bigger, especially for music. And it just kind of changed the way, like, before that, it was like, you open up the Village Voice and you see, what are the shows tonight, right? And that's how you find out what's going on. And this was like this whole new world. And we were there at that time being like, how can we use this? Then now I want to fast forward to now. That was like, 20 years ago or something. And now I'm at a phase where, like, I don't care about any of that stuff, right? All I care about is making art. I don't care who listens to it, who reads the books. I don't care even. Like, I don't care if 10 copies sell. I just like doing it. And I just like, I'll share it with my friends. And, can we sustain? I think one of the things we ask ourselves sometimes as this new publishing, can we sustain ourselves and keep this going and growing? We're not going to make money off of it. We're not looking to make, like, huge profit. I learned my lesson by being in bands. Like, I wasn't looking to make money. I was just looking to keep doing it, right? To be able to keep going for the sake of doing it. Like, I think that's a lot of the true with indie game makers and just people who just really enjoy the art and, just get really into, like, the process of doing it and forget all that social media stuff. That overtook for a while. I started feeling like I was spending more time going on those platforms and trying to promote the band and keeping up with it all, responding to random people who are messaging you and all that kind of stuff. And then I was like, wait a minute, what is this? Am I like a social media person, an internet person, or am I a musician? I started not being sure, actually, which one I really was doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of bleed just by the nature of social media and like the pressure to be on there, the pressure to promote yourself. I mean, I think we were experiencing that a bit with like trying to do marketing, trying to do ads and things like that. And then, also for my day job, I work as a tattoo artist, and it's like I have to be on Instagram, and it kills my soul. But in order to sustain that, to make money off of it, because that's the main goal of doing that practice, at least for me at this point, you have to do it. It's
Yeah, I was going to interject. Even though I think algorithms, and ML, and so on will reduce the or increase the number or variety, or decrease the strict boundaries in terms of like what people can be, like social media and just what already exists. Like people just will do it to themselves. People will, delimit themselves because that's all you see. It's like, oh, I'm going to be that kind of person. I'm going to be that kind of person. And there's like, obviously, it's like these things are trying. There's a little. You're being standardized when you look at Instagram every single time. You're just like, oh, that's how you be a person. That's how you be that person. It's kind of gross. I've been conducting an experiment on YouTube where I'm attempting to do fitness videos where I'm like, standing there without a shirt, like throwing a kettlebell around, and then I start talking about what audiobook I'm listening to and give like a really deep review of an audiobook, just to disorient and fail to amuse any possible audience member. But there's this one video. It's about like this kettlebell move called the armor building complex. And you do this whole thing, and then it's about a dance to the music of time, which is like, I don't know, like a 12,000 page book about life in England from like the First World War to like the hippie era, and like people watch that every day. It just keeps like compounding. They exist.
That's cool.
It's so weird.
I guarantee you somebody is falling asleep to that every day. That's their new ASMR,
Yeah, but I think so that speaks to sort of intergenre and kind of what you're saying. Because I do agree with you, like Backer Kit, for example. We've talked about this on the show before because we ran a Backer Kit campaign earlier in the year where they have these aesthetic tags you can pick, and it's only like 100, and they're very specific, but they are kind of funny because they're like, you can pick things like sci-fi, which I'm like, okay, sci-fi, click.
Done.
And then there's
Great.
also like dollcore retro synth or something. I'm like, I don't think our game is dollcore or like retro synth, or, you know, it's kind of like they're beginning to sort of use, and I think you're right, it'll just increase to where marketing language will be fluid and a kind of mirror of human activity. But the problem is it's a feedback loop. So you're mirroring people who are being taught to kind of learn through the algorithm. So for example, like my wife and I was joking that like her Instagram is so focused on now, because she's marketing our stuff, like tabletop role-playing games, but also just cats, and then like making omelets, like specifically like crab-filled omelets in Thailand. So it's like only one of 3 things like pops up over and over again, you know, and it's like to get like those 3 nouns, like it could be any 3 things, right? But it's so incredibly specific. It's always like kitten, indie tabletop role-playing game, or like someone making a crab omelet, and you're like, how did Meta's AI get to the point where they're just like, I'm going to exclude all other categories and make this new genre, this inter-genre I've invented just for you? So like, lit fit is something people actually like, right? People like Downton Abbey and they like kettlebell exercises. But I don't know, no one wanted the genre of like kitten, fried crab omelets, and like vaults of Varn or whatever. But, so I don't know. Anyway, this
catered specifically for the user.
It's 1-to-1, right?
Yeah.
So there's 8 billion people and there'll be 8 billion genres, but the genres will be sort of like basically dark mirrors, right? They won't be true, they won't be like fluid, useful tools for humans. I think that's the AI pessimism is they will be these corrupted sort of changeling versions of themselves.
Or like, because we have to remember they're corporations, right?
Yeah, yes.
And what do they want? What's their end goal, right?
Yeah. Some sort of money, right? There's some money controlling it all. But sorry, Lauren, you were going to...
I was just thinking about how it just becomes a one-way conversation instead of a two-way. Because, like, let's say if everyone's getting their own one-to-one algorithm, right? Or it's not one-to-one, it's just one. It's the content coming at you because you're not going back to them.
Right.
So, like, even if you comment on it or something, you might open a door, but it doesn't mean that person's going to talk back to you. Like, so it's like it's just a weird distorting space because it makes you feel like you're communicating, but you're not actually, like, you're not having a full conversation. Like, the listening part isn't happening.
Right.
But, like, what we're doing right here, we're all, like, in a room together. This is, like, a rarity, right? Like, many people who might watch this might not be in a room with another person.
Sure.
So it's just like communication has changed. And so, that's, like, actually, to bring it back to, like, the publishing, it's a weird thing to think about because, like, publishing is, like, it's a struggling space for many reasons. Like, I just joked, I sent a text to Brian and David yesterday. It was, like, a screenshot of a Publishers Weekly update. It was, like, a 2023 study showed that, like, only 16% of Americans say that they read for pleasure. I didn't even say what they were reading, so I was like, what I'm hearing is great time to start a publishing house. And then we were kind of joking about how, like, that was even from 2 years ago, so it's certainly declined.
It's certainly lower. It has to be lower.
And it's probably very inaccurate. I'm sure people say they read more than they do. I would say that I read more than I do. I read a lot more than I do.
I read a lot, but
You keep the scales going up. Such a good sentence.
That's actually a great T-shirt.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just thinking about it because, like, that's what books are competing with.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, like, you get a totally different sense of fulfillment from reading a book, but you have to, like, do, like, just a little bit more work to even get it in your hands.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially compared to social media or YouTube or any of these platforms, it specifically doesn't have the visual aspect of it, right? So you're not being force fed an image of what something looks like. You have to imagine it. Like you're saying, it's a little bit more work, and it's not. It can be pleasurable work for sure, but I do think it's a muscle that you have to train, which is being atrophied.
And like RPGs, there's this pressure, because even like in RPGs, there's now all the pressure to use visuals.
Right.
To use, virtual tabletops to show images, which the whole point of the genre is to imagine it.
It's supposed to be up here.
So you can easily change the vision. Everyone can kind of agree, regardless of the constraints of the rules. Yeah. The idea that it's an infinite game, you could change the rules, right? You can imagine something different. But now there's this pressure because of well-produced podcasts, but more generally just for these reasons we're talking about. the speed of life, and it's become more imagistic. So in a long historical sense, it's gone back to kind of the age of the caves, and even just the pre-literate, Middle Ages, right? I mean, it's an era when most people didn't read, and certainly weren't reading for pleasure. If they were reading, they're reading liturgical texts, right?
Yeah, or
like professional texts.
Yeah, professional Latin in Europe.
Yeah, and so I think we're
down like a receipt.
Exactly, ledgers. Yeah. So we're kind of headed back in a way to like writing is not going to go away, but writing is all about like corporate work, technical bullshit, or maybe sort of some sort of religious moment. Something like that. But like most people, to your point, I don't know if they're reading for pleasure. I don't know if they see it the same way. And I think it is scary to start a publishing company, but I'm drafting, like I just listened to an episode of Antifada, which is a great comics podcast I like, but they had on some indie magazine publishers, and they were saying this, like, it's kind of free to be like, the house is on fire, I'll just start building a new house inside the smoking remains of the old house. Like, I'm not even going to leave. I'm just going to, like, what am I making out of dirt? I guess I live in a dirt house.
That's how I feel. And that's how I feel. And I feel really inspired by Brian because, like, I mean, Brian and I have been together since we were 22 years old. So, like, we met, like, in South Dakota, like, as volunteers on an Indian reservation. And we moved here together. And, we've been practicing our art the whole time. And it's, Brian is very brave. Like, I've always really admired, I was always shyer. Like, I was afraid to, like, read my work. I was afraid to, like, share it at first, but you've always been very brave. And, like, you were brave about starting the record label. And so, and, like, what you said earlier, you really don't care. You make the work, you share the work, and that's the reward. And like that is something that I'm holding with me. Yeah, like it'd be awesome to make money. We've had some big accomplishments this year. Like we got a North American distributor and things like that. But like they don't necessarily mean that we're sustainable. I mean, they don't, like, they make us look, we are legit. It doesn't just make us look legit. Our work is legit. But it just, it's not easy to survive. Like, even, like, big publishing houses can't survive, which is why they're passing on lots of work. Because they're like, I don't know, I just need something that's going to sell.
They're hemorrhaging money, too. They're not making money, too.
Yeah.
And another aspect of it is that this is a community of real people. And I think you go to these, like, big publishers and you don't even know who they're conglomerates, right? Like, like Penguin is one small subsidiary of something larger who is bigger than something larger. And it's like no one even knows. We were looking at a book, maybe it was Penguin Publishers the other day. It was a children's book, and I flipped to the back of the book. I was like, this book feels. Reading this book with my kid, I was like, it feels really weird. I mean, something about this doesn't feel right. And then you go to the back, and the name of the author was like
AI something.
Yeah, AI Watson.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, let's give them the benefit. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's an actual person. This was like a couple years ago when this book came out, like before this huge AI.
Arthur Iglesias Watson.
Yes, but then we tried to deep dive it on the internet and be like, who is this AI Watson? And like, it got to the point where I literally was like, there's nothing on this person online. Their bio on the back of the book made like no sense. It was like this very obscure, and then there was nothing you could find about this person as an author and a human being whatsoever. So I literally contacted the publisher. I think it was Penguin.
It was Penguin because I asked.
Yeah, and I literally got a response from like, and I think I posted it on like their Twitter. Who is this AI Watson? Why can't I find anything out about this person? My son just read this book. It's a children's book. I want to tell him about the author, which is a big aspect of reading, right? It's a community. We want to know who the people are. Authors are real people, and we're trying to bring that back. Like, I think a lot of these publishers now are like, and music too, like, oh, AI can generate our material, right? Yeah. AI can generate our games too, and like, I mean, that's a huge one. I think AI can code any game we want, but it's losing that human touch. And I think these small, like, little kind of media companies, presses, labels, game companies, we can do that. We can keep that alive, and we can have events, and we can invite people in, and we can make it a community where we're talking with each other.
And I guess we won't feel too, I guess, like, we're small, and that's kind of the thing that you have to remember that's, like, good. Like, it's not bad to be small sometimes, because then you can fund something that is not large, like with a smaller amount of money. Mm-hmm. And then if you magically make a lot of money, then you can make the next decision about what that comes with. But if you make measured baby steps forward with like 2 books a year, you can fund that. Like that can happen. Yeah. Like with a full-time job with people who live simply in the world who care about art, they can make that happen through like some measured like fundraising parties, etc.
Well, that's something we've looked at, and I haven't done. It's not like I'm doing this with statistics. Although if there's a statistician, you know the word, who wants to work with me on it, it'd be fun. But like like I've lived in Japan. They have like the national living treasures, like people who do basically early modern blacksmithing or something. And at the end of the day, these people go home, they have cell phones, right? But they do for 8 hours a day, like a thing that isn't economically productive that the government supports because they have a continuous national culture back to the year 600. Mm-hmm. And they set aside taxes to just keep things alive so that people know how to fish with cranes. With the cranes, big-ass birds are trained to get the fish for you, and then you have to knock them on the head and pop the fish in, which is the thing that medieval people used to do. And most people don't do that. It's more efficient to trawl fish the bottom of the Pacific. But if you really want to do it, you can learn how to do it. So, I mean, it's almost like book publishers might go that way, where like there's no need to publish books, and that there's not a high economic demand for readers, but there are communities who support it. And I think my hopeful hypothesis is there's just so many fucking people that there's got to be enough people who will buy. And I think we've kind of seen it with games, and it's hard to tell. Yeah, we're always pessimistic, falling off the cliff. But I kind of feel like there's enough people who will buy a nice, well-made book. That, right, if we just wanted to have 2, 3, 4, 5 people's jobs depend on it, then it's just doing the math. Okay, how much do I need to live? How much do I need to pay healthcare, payroll, and then pay for printing? And like, it's just basic math. It's multiplying basic numbers together and saying, okay, I need that much gross, right? Yeah. And if you guys have even lower overhead, fewer, like, at the end of the day, it's how many employees, how much are you paying, and it's like basic math that like as an artist, I was never taught to do. In advertising, I don't do that shit, right? Yeah. I just write the words. And so it's different to have that responsibility. And it's not, it sounds like, Brian, you've been doing this for a long time, but like, if I want to do X, it costs Y, right? It's like just making the numbers make sense. And that is maybe possible even in a world where most people don't read, just because there's 8 billion people and there is money somewhere. And I think some of it is like, I don't know what's happening in the United States. I don't know what's happening with any, but in theory, the money still exists. People still know how to read. It's just kind of, okay, I have to find a more and more diffuse, more niche, weird audience somewhere. And I don't know if that's the same for novels and the same for music, but it feels like maybe these are all allied, just like, like you're saying, it's about community. I just think the community might be kind of spread out, and it's hard to find everyone. You want to find real people, have real connections.
Right, and that's like that's the challenge. So these are like exceptionally great books that you're going to sit down and you're going to read them and you're going to get something out of it, and it's going to have meaningful impact on your life, both of these books. But how do we spread the word? Like, how do people hear of them, right? Like how since we're so small, how do we get them into bookstores? How do we like, I'm sure it's the same in the gaming world.
But even if they're in the bookstores, they don't make, everything we're doing is experimentation. Like, just to be clear, like, I don't know how much money we're going to make. Like, we're a business of 1 year old. We're not making any money. Maybe one day we'll make some. But the point is, like, having your books in a bookstore doesn't make money.
Well, let's talk about it. I think that's interesting. I think retail distribution is a huge, interesting topic. So maybe, David, do you have some response? And then let's hear a little bit about that, because I think that is interesting.
Yeah, well, I would say that books or novels aren't just, totally a fluke in that they've been around for a while, and they, people are still human beings to an extent. And the very thing that we're talking about, that's the problem, that there's this diffusion of attention and difficulty in connecting and so on, is the thing that makes a book appealing. You want to connect. People still want that. And when you read Dark Enough, for example, and you're just whoa, you have a feeling that you're with another real person in a way that is very hard to do if you're using the other entertainments. And that still works, and people still want that, and that's people are buying Dark Enough, it's really happening.
Yeah,
because it works, and it's the problem is also sort of the solution. It's they're sort of features of the same thing.
The flaw is the feature. Yeah, no, I agree, because I don't know the experience of being like a 15-year-old girl in New Jersey, but reading Dark Enough, I feel like I do, and I think that's that transportation is a magical property of art. And I think games achieve, ideally, a similar, maybe not the same, but a similar thing where you feel like you're a different person in a different time, a different place. You escape, you learn something about other humans, you learn something about humanity in general.
Not even escape, but like an embodiment of a kind, right? Which I think, there's a lot to learn from that process, whether it's through reading a novel and like literally taking on somebody else's perspective, or forcing yourself into a different perspective by playing a character and like really trying to like seriously, or not seriously, it's still play, right? But like the act of play, taking the act of play seriously to like really try to think about like, okay, what would this person be doing? Not what would I be doing? What would they be doing?
Right. Yeah, that's fun.
So we went to the Pee Wee Herman look-alike contest in Coney Island yesterday.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh man,
we saw James Donovan there.
That would have been a good podcast.
Yeah.
Was he competing?
No, but he was just there. James Donovan, another member of our friend group from long ago, was just randomly there. It was great.
Just competing. Red bow tie.
That would have been better.
And I think, like, as silly as it was, like, you're sitting there in Coney Island, there was something that, like, brought everybody there.
Yeah.
And it was, like, this, like, childlike imagination. I think it's, like, people want to keep their sense of imagination. It doesn't matter how old we get or who we turn into. We just want to be, like you were saying, playful and imaginative. And, that's really a fun part of being a person. And Pee Wee Herman brought that out in many ways. And all these people were there, and our son Simon was like, "Why is everyone so old here?"
You're like, "Shut up."
And we were like, it's because we still love the show. We still love being in that world and pretending that I would still sit down and watch that show. Yeah.
Well, also, it's an interesting bar of, like, what would make me do something in real life as opposed to watching the 3-minute clip of it on an Instagram reel or whatever. And, like, the schadenfreude of watching people in gray suits and bow ties on the beach in 80-degree heat. Like, it's like that alone. Like, even if you didn't really know who Pee Wee Herman was, you'd be like, this is weird.
Yeah,
it's a spectacle.
It's like the freak show. Yeah. You go to the freak show and vaudeville is still alive, maybe only in the Coney Island freak show, but it's so wonderful because it is like something that even if you watch a clip of it, it is very different when you're the one 5 feet from that person putting a nail through their cheek, making jokes, trying to get you to participate. Like, when you're watching on a clip, it's just a clip. When you're there, you are transported, you're in another world. And I think even just watching a guy sweat, being like, like that's a kind of moment of like, you're sweating with them, you're smelling the air.
You're really there.
Yeah.
You're not on a VR headset.
I know it's put on by the freak show.
Or like the Eastern European dumpling and cigarette laden
hot dog.
But when you were talking, like, it made me think of something, like, both of you, when you were saying, it was making me think of, one of my really good friends is randomly, like, a very high executive at Walmart. And I'm always saying to him, I'm like, you should take my book and, like, make it be, like, something that is suggested to go into a shopping cart when someone's buying a bathing suit.
Yeah.
Like, or something, like, I'm like, people, like, books should be suggested as things. Like, it looks like you're buying stuff for a vacation. You need a book to read. Like, so, but like, I'm just like, that's just something that pops into my head. But also what I'm thinking of when I say that is this. Like, you're right. Like, role-playing games and reading are not different. Role-playing games generally happen when you're hanging out with a lot of people, like a good conversation.
Yeah.
Reading happens when you're going from one good conversation to the next and you need a friend. But like, they're not mutually exclusive in terms of the people who enjoy them. And one of the things that I think is weird about the world that we live in right now is because of algorithms, etc. Like, somebody might just be like super hardcore RPG person right now and like not even think that they could be a reader or vice versa.
We know people like that.
Yeah. Whereas back in the day, you would be both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be a delineation between the two, right? It's a natural bridge that, I think because of the way that we're kind of sorted. And also, I mean, just I think, you mentioned earlier, David, just the attention economy is so intense that, I feel like people, well, I don't know. I mean, there's a few different things. I think one of them is that people just don't feel like they have time for both. or that we are kind of being trained in a way where it's like, well, I'm an RPG player or I'm an RPG writer, and like that's what I do, or I play video games. I'm a gamer. That's what I do, and it kind of it limits the possibility that it's like, well, yeah, you could also be a reader. You could also be a conversationalist. You could also be X, Y, or Z.
It felt like nerd was a general catch-all in the 80s, 90s. That was this last reservoir of dilettantism, and the kind of like just like, I don't know, being an enjoyer, And then when that was mined, finally by the end of the 90s, it's like mined and turned into more content, more money for capital, more commodity, and I think that means that there's no reservoir. So it was like, I'm into football, I'm into basketball, oh, I'm a nerd, and that could mean anything. That was just like, I'm an enjoyer who's not obsessed with like a single sport that has like a major college like level. And now like you can't do that, right? You have to, it's like, no, I'm only into this, only that, because we see at cons and in terms of marketing, and not to return us to the business world, but I am curious because we've gone through this whole thing of trying to do distribution ourselves and then having it retail distribution through a big distributor. And then being like, yay, that's going to solve our problems, and then we don't make any money through that. And then we're like, wait, it doesn't really change anything. Damn it made us like look legit. We don't make any money from bookstores.
There's so much work into this.
Really, yeah. Like it really like equaled out, and in the end, it just like sort of cost us money to be like, man, we shipped all these things for a real distributor, and bookstores can buy us, and they're nice. It's not. I don't want to blame them. It's not like their fault. It's just structurally, it's like, well, they have like 100 indie RPG companies that sell books to them, and they do a good job at what they do. It's like moving the books and stuff. And they don't take a huge cut or anything, but it's still like, bookstores have to want our games specifically, and the games have to sell pretty fast. Yeah. Or else it doesn't really, like, if a couple stores here and there buy 2 books each, it just kind of doesn't make us money. So it's just that weird thing of like, that you have to figure out ways to sort of market to the niche as a business, but we don't, but at the same time, we're all agreeing we want to be this community of like, normal humans who like hanging out and stuff and have long span attention economy, long sort of libidinal arcs of like creative stuff, reading a story, telling a story, whatever. But in terms of how you make money, it's like, okay, how do I hack the system? Like you're saying, how do I go back to that, like, get 40,000 followers on MySpace real fast?
We have David thinks I'm crazy, but the way I do it is I'm always like, I literally call bookstores. I Google anyone out there who wants to figure this out. Like you can Google, you just take a state, you say like Vermont Independent Booksellers Association, and then every independent bookstore in Vermont shows up on a website with their phone number, and then you just call them, and you're like, hey, I want to tell you about this press. Yeah. And then like, usually there's just some person, like, people who work at independent bookstores, they really care. So, like, generally speaking, like, I'd say 60% of the time, they actually, like, talk for a minute and, like, write down your name and give you the real email address of the person. It's worked a few times. It hasn't been that successful. It requires a lot of work, but I think it's the way to do it.
I agree. I think it's great if you've got the fortitude to pick up a phone and call a stranger and talk to them without trembling and dissolving into a puddle. Like, you're like right on top.
Well, email works like 1% of the time. If you're doing fine, if you're like 2%. So I think if you're saying 60% of the time, I mean that is literally on our to-do list. Is start calling bookstores. Yeah. At that point,
you should call
them.
Let's
just do it.
It's like, honestly, they're like, the people who work at bookstores are like the nicest people on the planet, and they actually don't understand that, like, the distribution network situation, right? Like, they get that they have to look you up in a catalog, but I don't think anyone really understands how much we as small publishers, like, don't make any money. Like, I mean, we can get these in the bookstores, but, like, let's talk real about a few things that we've been figuring out. Like, because getting them in the stores is great, but like the quantity you need in a store to make money is quite large.
It's huge, yeah.
And so that's a problem, right? Because we were very slim with our first runs. We did like 500, and like we're getting to the point where we're going to need to print more books. But I'm actually having a meeting with the distributor on Wednesday because I want to be like, how much help do you want to give me in getting these books in like Barnes and Noble or something? Because like, if I'm about to, like, pay more money to print books, like, I just want to know that there's going to be a channel for them.
Right.
Otherwise, like, maybe I'll just, I don't know, like, I'll print 200 more, but then it's just, then that's really, like, I'm pouring money down the drain.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to do. Like, it's a real dilemma.
Yeah. Well, I think the distributors have some kind of terrible dilemma also. Like, the main small press distributor just withered away, like, right before we emerged, and left all of these indie presses just without distribution. And then the one that we were lucky enough to get from Lauren's magnetism and just the quality of the books.
And
like,
cold calling.
And cold calling. That's right. Had like a big downsizing recently, maybe 2 big downsizing. So it's like there's something hard about distributing books too.
Yeah.
Like I think that the people who used to go into Barnes and Noble and do whatever distributor magic they do, like don't do it anymore in the same way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Everyone's kind of like maybe going through the motions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're waiting for the industry to
They're just
evolve.
like, this is on fire, what are we doing?
Enjoying the show? Please consider supporting Why We Roll in all of our games over at patreon.com/Stillfleet. Dear patrons, we really love y'all. We just couldn't keep making Why We Roll without your support. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Now back to the show.
Hey, we're back. Writing advice. So normally, sometimes we have on people and ask about advice, how to write games, design games. We've talked about specifically adventure writing, characters, AP, so actual play, people sort of performing RPGs as entertainment, and how do you tell those stories and what's different about it than just having fun with your friends.
Whole systems.
Whole ass systems.
Yeah.
Novels are different, for sure, but still storytelling, so kind of curious if you could offer any advice or thoughts on telling complete stories. I know you're both very gifted and have told different kinds of stories, and these are only 2 of the latest that you can buy in stores, and everyone should buy, Dark Enough and The Cloud Intern. But in general, like David, how do you approach, when you have an inkling to write a thing, what does that look like?
I wonder if it's sort of just like incredibly depressingly lonely version of role playing, because it's like it's like you're the game designer and all of the characters, and you have to do all of that just all by yourself in a room, and then try to stay alive until it's over. It's very similar in a way, I guess. My approach to writing a novel, I feel, is more engineering than I would prefer to have to deal with, like especially being a day job engineer. It was like at some point, like the thing that I like is just like sitting down with absolutely no idea what I'm going to write and no concept that I'm a person who could possibly write something worth reading. Like, because you in your daily life, in general, probably don't feel like you're about to spew out something like unbelievably beautiful that you can't believe you did, right? You just feel like I'm the dude who's just like thinking about like that stupid thing I said like over and over or whatever, and like, or I'm just like, this burrito, and like
so cold.
Yeah, and how are you? Anyway, so I like sitting down as that person and standing up as like this totally different person who actually did the thing, and not like you just having the feeling of sitting there and just like starting this machine that like you don't really know the controls of, but you've done it enough where like you're playing an instrument that like only you can play, and that you've sort of learned to play, but like you don't have the manual, and every time it's still like kind of incredible that you managed to produce a song. And I like that feeling, just like going from being just like your daily, uninspired, frivolous self to like standing up like, what just happened? So that's what I prefer, which is like what the bubbles are, the short things. That's sort of what I try to do now. Writing a novel, it's like you can descend into that on a daily basis. That's sort of what you're doing, but then you have to have a lot of like engineering in the background and a lot of going back and reading and interposing much more of a conscious process. So anyway, that's my approach to writing. I would like sit down a moron, stand up a genius, encapsulate it.
Can you speak more on like what that engineering process looks like when you are sitting down to write a novel instead of like, you know, a shorter kind of one shot kind of thing? Are you like, you know, I think a lot about in the books that wife and I write when we're giving like GMing advice, right? How to run a game for people, how to prepare for a game. A lot of it is like, okay, well, you know, you don't have to like write a novel specifically, but like you want to have kind of like plot points planned out, like certain things that you want to hit in the story, certain things that like if you don't hit it, it's fine. Like, is there kind of like similar process?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, I imagine that they're both just like, how do we keep these people with us for an extended period of time?
Sure.
So, like, in writing a novel, like, for me, the crux of it comes down to keeping a person, like, emotionally in tow for however many pages, for 200, 300 pages. And that is very easy to lose. It's just like, you know, blowing air into a thing with a hole in it. So you have to keep rolling it and doing things just right. There may be people for whom that's completely natural, and the hard part is, you know, the writing nice sentences or what have you. But for me, like, some parts are easy, and the part where it's like there's no question that the person wants to turn the page or whatever, no matter how lovely that paragraph was, like, do they want to turn the page because something else is towing them that's like much more powerful, to keep that intact and like unattenuated and without any longueurs, like that to me is the hard part. So you just like the older I get and the more deteriorated like my brain is, like, the easier it actually has become, because like I can read it almost as a fresh person without having to let as much time elapse. Because, like, basically, you know, as you write draft after draft, you just have to wait until, like, enough of your memory decays where you can come to it somewhat fresh and be like, and you, like, it helps if you have other readers, of course, like you homies, to help, and, like, eventually your agent and their interns and whoever else, your editor, if you happen to get there. But, yeah, like a combination of amnesia, other people, and iteration.
For me, it's a total lack of object permanence that comes with ADHD. So I guess I have that on my side.
We all have our superpowers.
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting. You said you sit down. What did you say? You sit down a moron and stand up a genius? Because I feel like with game design, it's like, or with running games rather, it's like the opposite. Where I feel like I'm very humbled by running role-playing games because it involves other people and they always do surprising things that are very inventive and push the system or the story I had in mind, no matter how grandiose. So, you know, the villain might be giving a splendid monologue, and then they just kill them in one. You know, they like walk up behind them and shoot them in the face, and they're like, you don't even want to know what their plan was. You don't want to save. No, you don't care about any of that.
That happened to us recently.
It happens all the time, and so you know, it forces you to. It becomes more picaresque, which is what I always go back to. Is kind of how do I characterize that kind of story? It naturally becomes kind of small town crooks because it's just. People freak out and they're like, "Oh fuck, right? I'm not me. I'm a space marine with a shotgun. I'm just going to shoot this guy in the middle of his monologue." And then, you know, you've cut off White's genius words, and they're all just laughing and they're planning the next thing. They're looting the pants. You know, what's in the guy's pockets, right? And so, you know, it really humbles you as a writer in terms of that narrative design, where you don't know what's going to happen and you can't give pretty sentences. So you sort of have to just. It's like a pure beat by beat, like. Procedural, you know, it is about emotional investment. That's the same. You're trying to get them to be emotionally invested. Well, okay, it has to matter now. Okay, it can't matter for the reason 10 minutes ago was going to matter. Now it matters for a different reason, which I will come up with and not let them know that that's changed, right? They don't know that they just completely fucked up the plot. So I think it's interesting that you're saying you're doing that almost with yourself.
Yeah, like
it's very weird to think about. But.
Yeah, first of all, when we did the game, I was just there to listen to you. I would, but I think what you're describing is very much like the kind of thing you learn in the MFA program, where it's just like whatever cool thing you had in mind, right. Like when you sat down to write this book, like what your job really is following these characters, like, you know, with total fidelity. And if they're the kind of person who would shoot this dude in the head while he's in the middle of a fabulous oration, like, it's your responsibility to shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
And like you just have to like constantly be ready to let go of what you wanted to happen in favor of, you know, these imaginary people who have to be incredibly real to you.
So it's like imaginary children in your own head doing whatever, what they want, and you have to tend to them. I mean, Lauren, to turn to you and Dark Knight, I mean, does this sound similar? Do you have a very different process? How do you think about it?
Your description of being a game leader, I teach middle school for a living, so that sounded very similar to my daily life. When I'm like in the middle of teaching something,
just don't give them guns.
I'm like, wait a second, I was saying something important. So I can relate on that level from writing. So my advice for writing, which is going to be very different. Like, I can relate to what David's saying, but I'm going to give different advice. I'm going to give a few things. First of all, if you want to write a novel, and you actually want to finish it, you don't want to just be, like, writing it forever, you really need to make it something that you value. And, like, it's like the Ishmael masthead thing. You have to be there. You have to create the space. It is a sacred space. Like, you have to do it. And you cannot, it has to be your number one priority while you're doing it. Like, that, it doesn't have to happen all day. It has to happen for, like, a couple hours, like, a week, maybe, minimum. But you have to do it. And, like, it does not do itself. And it has to become a magical routine, because, like, it gets to the point, at least when I was writing Dark Enough, I wrote it at this place called the Brooklyn Writers Space that doesn't exist anymore. And I had two little kids that were, like, very little, like 3 and 5. And they would go to their, like, preschool and kindergarten, and I only had a couple hours, and I had an exchange going with Scott, who was so kind. He let me have, like, a free membership to curate the reading series. But I knew I only had that time. I went, I sat, it was the same thing every day, and I got so into it. Like, if you can find your space where you're working, you're already working before you sit down. Like, it's beautiful. It's like anyone who's, like, really into doing, like yoga or runs or does, like, it's a similar thing. Like, it just has to become part of who you are. And then, like, all the other things too. But, like, you're not even there yet unless you write it. So you just have to, like, make the space and be like, I'm doing this. And, like, there's no one, I think at the launch I called it, like, in earnest. I use the word earnest a bunch for some reason, but, like, that's my number one advice. Like, you have to make the space, and you have to be very serious about the space. It doesn't matter if you don't have an MFA. It doesn't matter if you've never written anything in your life before. None of that matters. What matters is that you are writing a book, and nobody can tell you that you're not writing a book. Like, I think that's my number one advice.
I would just add that, like, I do know some people who have that down, but are deficient in delusion management to the point where even though they write as, like, their primary activity in life, they just start a new book, for example, without ever finishing the one book. So, like, there's also that. I feel like there's the art of delusion management should be taught.
It's true.
And it's like, you have to understand that you're going to be excessively excited about the thing when you start, and then it's going to attenuate, and then you're going to be totally delusionally negative about what you're writing at some point. Right. And you have to manage that and so on. And that's, like, a lot of people get stuck in that, even if they're, down with the schedule.
It's true.
They just spend their whole life writing without finishing.
You just have to know what you're doing, though. Like, I guess the other piece of advice I would say is this, like, you have to love to read. Like, you have to have read enough books that you know what you love. And you, like, it's like, I'm not a musician, but I'm married to a musician. And so, I love music, like, most human beings. But, like, when I would listen to an album with Brian, he would, like, I heard so many, he would, like, talk about things that were happening in the album that I couldn't hear because I don't play music, and I don't listen to it the same way or record it. And over time I realized, like, wow, there's so many different ways to experience anything. And if you're a writer, when you're reading something like a book, even for pleasure, you're also you're naturally reverse engineering it, right? Like you're understanding things about it. So like I knew what I was trying to do. Like I knew who the books that I read that I was inspired by, and I knew I wasn't going to be them, but I was like, I'm writing like this, and like so I knew what I was going to do. So you also need other things. Like I'm just giving one piece of advice: set your table, figure out the other stuff.
No. I like both. I really like both those. I mean, just to touch on them and talk about game design briefly. I want to ask Brian as well. But you know, I think the idea of jouissance, like really finding the thing that brings you joy and how do you understand it and why. Like, and at the end of the day, we're all kind of you have to be the kind of click and clack mentality of like wanting to take it apart, put it back together. You're obsessed with that form, whether it's whatever, music, novel, the pure story, or this kind of, with RPGs, the kind of collected story, so props for stories, but you're not directing the story, you're creating conditions for certain kinds of stories, and certain kinds of discovery, and what's safe, and what's epic and meaningful. And I think that's interesting. And I also think delusion management with product design and getting a thing done is really, really real.
It's so real.
Like most things in my head, I'm like, yeah, the antidotes to this is like Marxism and Buddhism, right? It's like being able to see outside yourself and see that there, I don't know if it's dopamine or what is happening in your brain, but like you go really high when you start an artistic project. And then you kind of level out. And you're like, I can do this. You're 80% loading bar there. And that last mile problem when you just crash and you're like, this is the worst thing. I can't finish it. I don't know how many hit points this last enemy in the book has. Like, who cares? Fuck that guy, you know. And you're just, I'm going to delete it all. And I think that happens probably for every artist with every project ever. And it's sort of a question of sticking power. There's a lot of luck involved, a lot of hard work, but also just like delusion management, like being able to see yourself, if you want to kind of go pro and be like, hey, I can do, like, that's a normal cycle. And I know that it's not as good as I think when I start. I know it's not as bad as I think when I can't finish the last 10, 21%. And that those are things that you can practice also. You can practice writing, you can also practice, and more of your point, you can practice managing time, and you can practice managing joy in a way and finding what renews, what feeds back into the energy of I like this thing in the beginning. But you can also practice, like, it is really hard to stick the landing. It's really, really hard. I think with any genre. Yeah. I think for sure RPGs is the same. You can have a great concept, but then turning it into a beautiful, say, 200-page hardback book that kind of costs a lot. I mean, it's like, well, that's a whole nother idea. It's a whole other work program, and you can do it in a year. You can do it, you can plan it out, but to make it happen, you have to kind of like, have your desk. Be happy, be ready to show up at your desk and be excited to some degree.
I love the way you guys tell stories too. Like, I love the idea of RPGs, and I feel like it was something that I just never experienced, like, just because of probably who I am and where I was. Like, I've always wanted to do one. I did one for Steve's birthday, like, a million years ago. And I was like, wow, this is fun. But, it's what, maybe it's stubborn to want to publish novels or even write them, like if like the world is like not reading them, or maybe it's not, I don't know, but I think it's just like, it's interesting listening to all the different ways people talk about things, like, yeah, this is a weird conditioning thing.
Yeah, we read novels, so hopefully people still read novels, play games.
There's at least two of us.
It's like running a marathon or something. It's a specific thing.
It is like running a marathon.
It's a specific thing. You can run lots of different ways, and then there's like one kind of race that's a marathon, and that's also like kind of a novel or something.
Yeah, and I think RPG design is like running a basketball court, and the rules change every single time. So like it's like a weird, like you're playing. It's basically you're playing against the Harlem Globetrotters, but they're all 11-year-olds with shotguns. Brian, any advice from whether you want to take it in terms of art or like writing or like running a business, but anything you would say, to kind of wrap up the advice portion here?
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm at liberty to really like give solid sound advice to anybody creating anything, but I can say a few things that really worked for me, and I think I'm always trying to tell myself, like, it can't be boring. I'm always trying to say, like, no matter what I'm creating, like, and I don't know, I think I think that's like being honest with yourself in a way. Like, I'm not just going to go through this because I want to get this done, or like, half-ass my way through this song or section of a book that I'm working on, or really be like really scrutinizing, like, is this garbage? Like, being able to throw stuff away. I think, I might do 500 takes on a 5-second section of a guitar part because there's I keep saying this isn't the right one. This one's still too boring. this one's still too boring. There's something missing in this one, right? And all 500 of them I'll throw away. And then I don't know what the term boring means inside me 100%, but I know when I got it. I know when it's like, this is a good one. This is not the boring one. This one's really interesting. Yeah. This one's unique. This one's
an affect.
This one's like nothing that's ever been done quite before, I think. I don't know. I've never heard this one before. I finally got something really interesting here, and it might take 500 different times to try. So that's why I think that's my best advice. And with seeing through projects, which I think we're all saying, we've all done that. We've all seen through the beginning where we're like, I have this great idea. The middle where it's like, this idea, why did I come up with this? It's so hard to get through this idea. I think along the way, changes happen. I think you have to be really open to being like, you know what? This isn't the original idea I had, but I just was inspired by something that I just recently grasped onto, or something I just read, or something I just listened to, or something I just saw on TV, like something in the news. Like, I'm changing it now. It's not, you don't have to stick with like the original idea you had and say like, I have to get from A to Z with that original vision. And so for me, it's okay to like morph it. And especially right now, I'm working on something that took me a really long time to do. And it's about someone who runs for president in the year 2028. And when I first wrote it, that was like, I feel like it was close to 8 to 10 years ago. And times have changed a lot since then. So I'm working on the book, and the book's changing a little bit too, but the core value of what's really important is going to still be there. And, and you have to say, like, what are the like, Grimm's tales, or like the big lessons that I want to get across that are timeless, right? Yeah. A timeless song. What's a timeless song that anyone can listen to 150 years from now and feel like it was written today? Like Moby Dick, right, or something like that. Like, it's timeless. Who cares how antiquated the technology or whatever's going on in the book is, but it still matters right now. And I think I'm always looking for that too, in what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think having that commitment to flexibility and mutability is kind of the utmost importance. I'm curious too, like something that I found working with Wythe, working with the other folks that we work with at Stillfleet, just actually being in conversation with other people and having, like, I don't know if I want to call it accountability necessarily, but yeah, having kind of a back and forth has been really generative and really helpful for me in staying flexible. And I'm curious, like, is that something that y'all also experience when you're putting out stuff, when you're reading each other's drafts, when, kind of having a conversation about your own work?
Yeah, for sure. The skill of just being able to take feedback in a useful way isn't something that I think you have the first time somebody writes something that you disagree with. Yeah. Like that's a skill. Yeah, it's like an adaptation. You're like, and even on the 100th time, you're just like, what do you mean you don't get that? Like, man, it's right there. They're in the rowboat. But yeah, the ability to take it in good part and actually respond to people, because everyone is giving you a legit response, unless like somebody's trying to subtly sink you for some reason. Very improbable.
Yeah, the more ritualistic and the more professionalized. I mean, not in the sense of some negative connotation of a horrible job, but the vocational one, where it's something that really matters to you and you take it seriously, like the earnestness. The flexibility that you guys are speaking to is really important, because otherwise I don't think you can do it in the long run effectively. I mean, you need to be able to kind of work with the best tools, and that feedback is a tool. Not necessarily from every random person at every point in the project, but from the right people at the right points. You have to be able to use it and keep moving without getting outside of yourself and saying, "Oh, I'm going to beat myself up because they didn't get the rowboat seat," And it's like you have to just keep moving. Yeah, right. You don't need the rowboat, right? They're just on shore the whole time, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's a skill to give feedback. I recently switched day jobs, and a new art director I'm working with basically just didn't comment when I raised an idea a couple times when we were concepting, and I realized she was very skillfully just saying that's not a very good idea without having to kind of point it out. And we just focused on other ideas, many of which were mine, to like blow out. And I think that I was like, that's really dope to do it in a very light, and it didn't come off as passive aggressive, just like we only have so much time in a 15-minute brainstorm. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, let's do this, this, and this. And I think that comes up all the time with these little choices. At least in game design, there's so many little bullet pointed, like, okay, what are the 10 names of these goblins in this village that you might just ignore? I don't know. But the same with like any novel, right? There's so many words you have to choose. Like you said, guitar licks. There's so many possible notes. So you don't have time to overthink every single choice. You have to get in a bit of a flow state, even when you get feedback, and just kind of keep going, right?
I was thinking about the takes and the flexibility, all that, just to piece it together a little bit. Maybe just from my perspective, I'm a very like sentence-based person. Like I just really love words. Possibly like they're my guitar licks or whatever. But like I will rewrite a sentence like a million times. Like I'll be in like a flow state, I guess you would say, where I'm just like trancing and I'm just like maybe it's like a movie screen ticker in my head. But then I like, I'm like done with that. Like, how long does that last? Like 2 minutes or something? And then I go back and I like read that part and like there's just so many mistakes in it. Like, some of the words are not like misspelled or like it's a crazy run-on sentence or something, but like some of it sounds like super cool. And then I'm like, okay, I'll turn that into a little sentence, and then I'll cut that. So like I think everyone has their way of doing it, but it's sort of the same. Like it's like a take, and then like sometimes I'll look at like pages in that book. I read them at readings and stuff, and sometimes I'm reading them and I'm like, who wrote this? Like it's like. I wrote this?
Do you fix it as you go?
I sometimes will I will sometimes get a feeling of flusteredness by my own voice. Like I guess the same way you feel when you watch yourself on a video or something. Yeah. But only very rarely can I remember exactly where I was when I wrote something. Because it's been gone over so many times. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, with that, we could talk forever, but I think we wanted to end with really focusing on y'all's work. So, I guess I want to make sure we get at least a brief, so I don't know how go long, short, whatever you want, but brief summaries of, what is The Cloud Intern, what is Dark Enough? And Brian, again, dealer's choice, you want to talk about music or you want to talk about, and I'm very intrigued about the novel, so I'm going to ask you either way when we stop rolling tape. But, yeah.
From it.
Oh,
at the party. Yeah, I don't know when this is going to come out, but
that's a question for
us. September 17th, we're having a Under the BQE birthday party, nice. and it's going to be at Mama Tried, and Brian's going to read from that novel. So
well, we will definitely be there either way.
All right.
But okay, so we have to do popcorn. So Lauren, do you want to kick us off?
Sure.
Can you tell us about Dark Enough?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dark Enough is a coming-of-age novel. It takes place in the summer of 2000. It's from the perspective of a 15-year-old girl. She's she's an overachiever, a scholar athlete, who is the female hope of her family. There's never been a woman who graduated from college on her matriarchal line, and so. There's a lot weighing on her. And it sort of explores what it's like to be the kind of person who is so concerned about doing everything correctly, and wanting what you're supposed to want, but then discovering that that's not actually a plan. Like, that if you follow what people tell you is right, it might not lead you to the right space. And how to learn what you actually like, and how what you like makes you who you are. That's what it's about.
Oh, yeah.
I want to read that book. I mean, I did read that book, but yeah, that's a good summary.
Well, I want to read that book.
Well, you can borrow my copy.
Great.
Or buy one from me.
Feel free, they're for sale.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
Yeah. David, could you tell us about your book?
Possibly.
As best you can.
It takes place on a luxury blimp in the near future, up in the clouds, and the narrator is this fellow who is the lesser co-founder of the company, the campus of which is this luxury blimp. He's a sort of less talented co-founder, and he is sort of I would say that he's a depressed, sort of Luftmensch is the word. He just wants to look at the sunsets and sort of dispose of his life as painlessly as possible. But the talented co-founder dies at the beginning of the book, or has died right at the very beginning of the book, and the blimp is on its way to like a sort of Davos-like summit in this company that he is now like sort of interim chief of. Is like a huge company like Apple that's created this thing called the Eddy, which is the first device where people can talk to emulations of their loved ones, people who have died, etc. I mean, this was like pretty fanciful once upon a time when I wrote it, but now I mean we almost have Eddies by this point. And he has this thing called the cloud intern, which nobody really knows what it is, including the person whose job it is to be the cloud intern. But his cloud intern, who basically is just there to keep him company while he's looking at the sky to attenuate the loneliness of it, is a sort of anarchist, or a person who is very interested in what's happening in the world. This is a few years in the future, and you can just imagine, the trouble. As they go to the summit, and maybe it has ill intent, etc., and they strangely form a relationship. And the book is about an age of the increasing absence of connection, and usurpation of human connection by algorithms and machines and so on, and I guess unlikely connections that are possible.
It's very darkly funny. Also, I just feel like it's like, to me it reads like a Socratic dialogue for the age of like Rick and Morty. Like it's like very like different takes on like what is humanity, but then it's just kind of a silly. There's a tone to the voice of it. It's great.
And also very like sensitive at the same time. Like it's like silly, and then there's these really like sweet little observations. Just little.
Both of your books are very sweet and touching, and also funny. And I will say, David, you do have a bit of a kind of epic plot in there, which again, if you're a game person listening to this, again, you gotta love a kind of big epic. Okay, they're on a blimp. It's like the owner of, being the sole owner of Apple or Meta floating around on a blimp. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Thank you for enhancing my description. People, please disregard my description of the book and just listen to what Mike said.
No, I work in advertising.
I really appreciate that. I do not work in advertising.
I, for one, look forward to reading about our blimp-steading future.
I, for one, look forward to getting usurpation in a business document of any kind ever. I think that would be like an instant, drop the mic, quit my job.
Can I ask, was that a thing where you're thinking of like Peter Thiel and like the seasteading kind of movement of the earlier 2010s, things like that, or was it?
No.
You know of them.
No. It was probably just like me being lonely and looking at sunsets and just like looking at the clouds. And I also spent a lot of time floating in a pool, looking at the sky, and it's probably more from that. But weirdly, there's a lot of that kind of thing in there.
Happens,
it just it happens.
It's also in both books. I must say, in the exactly opposite register, and both books are very pleasurable. But the main character in Dark Enough is looking at the sky and thinking. I mean,
that's true.
Wrong. She's thinking about connections with her family and with all of humanity, and with the ancients looking up, as Borges said, the eyes of the gods, and with maybe other intelligent beings out there, and thinking about the long duration. Even if atoms disappear, they don't really disappear; they just go somewhere else in space. This guy's looking out at clouds and is like, "I'm so sad. I'm sad even when I'm, trillionaire." And I think it's really interesting that you both wrote books about looking up at the sky. It's kind of the central.
Looking up is really the essential thing.
Looking up, yeah.
Looking up. It's like looking up from
we did think about it that one time when we did our presentation. It was like, look up.
That's right. That was me advertising the tagline right there. But yeah, it is a little strange. I don't know how many books have like entire chapters about looking at the sky, but these two books happen to.
They did.
Well, Brian, can you tell us about what you've got going? Either the book or music or both?
I'm going to try to do a little of both here. How about that?
Ooh,
so I have a new band that is called Hand Gestures. That's the name of the band. It's kind of an indie rock band. That's kind of the thing I've been doing for a long time. But this is a whole new iteration for me with some new people, and I'm very excited. It's like a nice collaboration. And we have an album coming out on Halloween that's a self-titled debut record, Hand Gestures. So you can check that out. I think we have a single out right now. You can find that on all the streaming platforms, and then a subsequent single in a couple of weeks, and then the album's dropping on Halloween Day. So, if you want to search that, please do. The $100,000 President is a quick plot summary, plays into my experience being in a band, in a DIY band on the road. Basically, it's a young, early 30s lead singer of an indie rock band who by chance signed a kind of like a sync licensing deal. They're a band that nobody really has heard of. They've not really gone anywhere. They're out on the road, but they kind of forgot that they signed this deal, and one of their songs gets picked up by Major League Baseball and is like being played during the World Series, like during commercial breaks and stuff, and they have no idea this is happening. And it propels them into like this quick fandom that they really don't know that's happening because they're out on the road. The lead singer of the band, her name is Patricia Robertson, is from Trenton, New Jersey, and she's and she's half Mexican. Her dad was from Mexico, and she's just this character of a person. And then all of a sudden, the fanfare of what's going on with the band and it just culminates in this like interview. And she says like, she's just like fed up with the world. She's just like fed up with everything. She's like, I'm going to run for president. And this becomes like the laughing stock of the viral internet. And they're like, who is this person? What do you mean you're going to run for, is she really going to run for president? Like, oh, but she has this song. And like, so it's kind of the story of her. Actually, yes, I am going to run for president. I'm going to do it from like the sense of I'm a touring DIY musician and the band. And then there's these like, some of the band members are interspersed in like this kind of like love/band relationship, meeting this like we're gaining fame, meeting like the surrounding world and the current state of the world. And there's these people out there who kind of form this conglomerate of like supremacy called Seekers, who have their own like mission of overtaking the government. But Patricia is there. She's not affiliated with any parties. I'm going to be an independent person, and I'm going to run for president for no more than $100,000 is what she says. And all this, she says it like live on Colbert, and and then it's like, whoa, who is this person? So it's this whole storm of how this story unfolds.
So Brian Russ correctly predicts it now. We're calling it the next president will be like a Gen Alpha influencer who just has a viral TikTok and then is like, I guess I'm going to run for president. And then it becomes like a thing.
That could really go either way.
It could really go either way. But I'm hoping it's like a Greta Thunberg, Free Palestine, like somebody we would like.
Yeah, a cool influencer.
And not like a MAGA bro makes a really dank omelet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's an amazing plot idea. I think that sounds very timely, and I want to read that. And it's interesting how these stories come out, because I read you have these ideas way before they're ready. And it's like you said, you had this idea earlier, and it would have been a good idea then. But it's a fucking great idea now.
Yeah, it works out.
This goes back to why I think the theory is that writers would make good acquisition editors, because your antennae are out there in a way that, like, you know, when someone in other, you know, corporate position or whatever doesn't have their antenna, their antennae are stuck in, like, whatever the heap of crap on their desk is, and I mean, or wonderful literature, however it may be. But yeah, I mean, in theory, you do that because you're an artist, and you would pick a book from the same sensibility, and by the time it were published, it's not just like following a trend. It's like right there in the moment.
It's also, and I'm no expert on this, it's not my area of history, but it's how I understand traditionally, and again, maybe you can fill us in, like, record labels worked, right? As you had record labels give deals to some artists at least, or some producers who could then pick the artists they wanted, and it was sort of control. But ultimately, when I think, you know, when you look at, like, I don't know, anything about rap, I mean, that's kind of what made it, is you could get people with taste to get the next generation.
Yeah.
So I do think there's something to this idea of having a generation of artists who care. Now, there is a missing underpants known part of the equation, which is making enough money where you could keep going. But if we can make it work, you can keep working with other artists and keep it, in some ways, indie, in some ways different from that bigger system. So, traditional final question.
Yeah.
Or any other questions before we end? I'm done. I just wanted to say that last bit. I think it's a great plan, a great model. Everyone should buy Under the BQE Press books.
Yeah, 1 second. I got a cat here.
There's a cat.
No, yeah, our traditional final question is for all three of you. Where can folks find Under the BQE? What are your pluggables? How can we best support you?
You can find Under the BQE at underthebqe.com. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us, if you're in Brooklyn, our books are for sale at every independent bookstore in Brooklyn, with the exception of Powerhouse. Powerhouse carry our books.
Yeah.
But other than that, you can find us at every independent bookstore in Brooklyn, and online.
Well, and plenty of other bookstores too. What about the Vermont?
Oh yes, and actually every independent bookstore.
Every independent bookstore in Vermont.
We are listed at almost every independent bookstore. They'll have to order it for you, but you can get it anywhere. So please, or you can buy it directly from underthebqe.com, and we'll mail it to you.
Or you can get it, you know, from all the normal places like bookshop.org.
Yes.
Or Barnes & Noble, Amazon if you must, etc. And then maybe in your bookstore, go and take a look. I mean, it can happen. A lot depends on, like, your last name. Like, I noticed that, like, just because my last name is Greenwood, it's like somebody would be lying down on the floor to see my book.
Oh.
You know, just by chance.
The problem of alphabetization.
Yeah, I mean, if their shelves were a little smaller, I'd be right there.
You can just go and move it.
Store to store.
Misfile it.
As somebody who used to work in a bookstore, that would have upset me greatly.
If I was like renegade going in.
Yeah. Oh, I would have. Oh, man.
I promise you I won't.
Problem already solved by hip hop. ASAP Crew, that was the whole idea with the dollar sign. Starting with an A and then a character. It floated above even even above a Lee or whatever. And then, SoldierBoyTellHim.com, having the album name be the website name, 1-to-1, so you had to say over and over again the URL. Brilliant marketing. All right, well, so everyone
is brilliant.
Go to underthebqe.com, follow at underthebqe.
Yeah, .press or something on Instagram. Yeah, and we're only on that because we're bad at social media, as you may have learned from us.
Anything else? Brad, you want to talk about
Campers Rule. You can go to campersrule.com or send me an email and I'll send you a whole bunch of stuff.
Do you want to say the email address, or is it like a...
campersrule@gmail.com. Send me an email, and I'm happy to send you some tapes.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me add, I have a Substack. It's free. It's usually painless. At davidgreenwood.substack.com. It's called The Bubble Cannon. And I, as mentioned, I have a YouTube channel. If you are one of these weird perverts and want to hear about audiobooks while learning how to improve your physique. That I don't really know what it's called, but if you search like David Greenwood Literary Fitness, you should see some.
Nice.
And I am a user of the Bubble Cannon and can say it is painless. And I think I've quoted you in games. It's good. You have very good sentences that just appear in the inbox.
Oh wow.
So, all right, with that, Under the BQE Press, thank you so much for letting us invade your home.
This has been such a delight. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone. Check out Dark Enough by Lauren Belski and Cloud and Turn by David Greenwood and Campers World Records. And that's all.
That's it.
Yeah.
Get some cassettes. Read some books. Read some goddamn books. Play a game.
I'm gonna play a role-playing game.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're all gonna try something new.
You got your... Thanks for listening to Why We Roll. Our theme music is by the brilliant Sam Tyndall and Arpline. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on all social media at Stillfleet. You can find out more about Danse Macabre, Stillfleet, and all of our games over at stillfleet.com.
Every hero strikes out on their adventure for a different reason.
To prove myself worthy of my mother's praise.
To write my own story and discover who I really am.
To prove to my family that I am more than they believe me to be.
To revive the god that has chosen me.
But when the fragile balance of the world is in jeopardy, and sinister forces move in the darkness, heroes will be tested, pushed to their limits and beyond. And it will be left to them to determine if they are up to the task. There is a darkness rising. Will they be able to overcome the challenges and meet this evil head-on?
For my god.
For my story.
For my freedom.
For the world.
To restore the balance. Modified Role Season 2, The Chronicles of Erin, a D&D 5e actual play podcast. New season, new characters, new story. Find us on all the usual podcasting apps or at modifiedrole.com.